mean, if I got paid the right amount of money, and I was done with MMA, sure, why not? I mean, Tiago did it. Tiago Alves. Just like it's kind of like a thing. Also, like at the end of the day, you're like, I just want to try it, see what it's like.
The AllStar app, the number one app in the business. UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and more. Get the app right now. Link in description. Sports Illustrated Top 10 Fighters of the Year 2022. Finding your name on that list, man. How was it?
It's pretty cool. It was kind of nice to get a little validation from Illustrated, and you know, I think I was a little bit deserving of it. But
Mhm.
yeah, man, it's nice. It's nice to get some acknowledgement.
Is the next step to be on the cover? Because I think as a kid, Sports Illustrated was like one of the magazines. You're an athlete, so you probably looked at Sports Illustrated from time to time. Getting on the cover would be the next step, right?
Yeah, I guess we'll see if that happens. If it doesn't, I don't really care. But if it does, that'd be pretty awesome as well.
Recently, you've seen like AJ McKee as well as Nemkov, right? Re-sign with Bellator. It seems like they're getting really good deals, especially after like they've entertained like maybe I might go to another promotion, maybe not. But Bellator is doing a good job keeping their talent, huh?
Yeah, they're doing a really good job at retaining what they already have, which is really important. So it's important to retain the talent that you already have, like the top level talent, and then also sign new talent from other promotions, maybe that aren't happy with the promotion that they're at, or maybe they're coming from a different promotion like One or Risen, um, like a top promotion, but or PFL, even PFL, it's like a top promotion, but they want to get a different deal or a better deal, or there's a bunch of reasons why people hop around or shop around. But yeah, man, they're really good at keeping the homegrown talent that they have, and then also signing new guys in.
It's great to see that fighters are moving from promotion to promotion, which shows you that free agency is actually a thing in MMA now. What do you think of that?
I think it's good. I think it's good for young fighters to see this. I saw this pretty early on. King Mo kind of told me, "Hey, man, don't be UFC or bust. Be a guy that's going to shop around and look around for a promotion that's really looking to build you." I saw that in Bellator, and I mean, they built me into a champ.
And it looks like they're pursuing Ngannou. Man, imagine Ngannou signing with Bellator.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I feel like everybody's kind of after him. Every sport at this point that's like a combat sport is kind of like trying to take you know like have their little holler at him. You know what I mean? Like they got bare knuckle hitting him up. I'm sure some boxing promotions are hitting him up. Every MMA promotion is for sure. So yeah, man, he's a big name.
Would it ever get to the point where you would do bare knuckle?
I mean, if I got paid the right amount of money, and I was done with MMA, sure, why not? I mean, Tiago did it. Tiago Alves. Just like it's kind of like a thing. Also, like at the end of the day, you're like, I just want to try it, see what it's like. I've been to the fights; they're pretty fun. They're pretty grueling, get cut open, but definitely just like I don't know, more a little bit more primal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've been to one event, which was in Bangkok, the bare knuckle show that they did with Bull Cow. It is a different environment. Like it
Hmm.
even sounds different when they're fighting, right?
Yeah,
Because they have the mics really close to the ring, and you could hear the like knuckles, bone on bone, basically.
bone on bone the whole time. Body shots are a little bit different, and then guys aren't throwing haymakers like they would in boxing because you might break your hand. Um, yeah, man, it's pretty crazy.
Back to you. 8 months between fights, it gives you a lot of time, man. This sport is just growing and advancing, and there's new science. What have you been experimenting with?
Just getting better, man. Experimenting with my striking. People also saw me like switch stances my last fight, so I've been experimenting more with southpaw, and like getting on entrances with my takedowns from southpaw. I've just been getting better and honing in on some skill sets I want to get better at, especially at in a different stance. So I think that's the biggest thing I've been kind of playing around with is like, okay, what tools do I have in an open stance fight? Whereas if it's like if it's orthodox, and we're closed stance, these are the weapons I like to use. But I can change that at any moment by switching stances, and if that guy doesn't switch stances, I can make it to where it's an open stance fight and have certain tools I can use. then there's certain tools I use like southpaw, and closed stance, but it might be a little bit different than what I use in a closed stance from orthodox. Like a good example right now is like when I'm southpaw, I don't really use the calf kick as much. Whereas if I'm orthodox, I'll use the calf kick more. So there's other things I use from southpaw, close stance. But it's just like kind of like since I switched stances, I'm like figuring out little nuances in each stance and what tools I can use in those stances.
Like when you do switch stances, right? And throwing the lead hand, you could get comfortable with that pretty fast, but throwing that backhand and being confident in it, like has that been something that has been a slow process, or have you like picked it up pretty quick?
I actually picked it up pretty quick. I actually like throwing my backhand, especially because most guys don't switch stances. So when I switch southpaw and they stay orthodox, I actually prefer throwing my backhand, my left hand. But like there's some guys at the gym that switch stances as well, and they'll keep it closed. They'll keep the stances closed. So if I'm orthodox and I switch southpaw, they'll switch to southpaw, and then I'm more likely to use my lead hand. I've noticed. Um, but at first, I would go with guys that would just stay in orthodox. So I was pretty inclined to throw my backhand. It actually took time to develop my jab. Um, from southpaw when guys would switch stances with me. Like I use my jab regardless of the stance, but I tend to use it more in a closed stance, southpaw. And actually, I started doing that with Dustin Poirier a lot. Like I would spar with him, and I would go close stance with him in southpaw, and I noticed I was using my jab a lot more. Jab, lead hooks, using my lead hand more.
When you switch stance and your training partner or your opponent switch stances, right? Could you notice instantly that they're not comfortable in that position, but they just switched because you did?
Honestly, I don't know. Maybe some guys just do it because they want to keep it closed. But usually, if a guy switches stance with you, he's probably comfortable in that stance. It's whether or not, like, if they like can figure out what you're trying to pull off on them, if that makes any sense. Like, sometimes I don't mind if sometimes I switch stances on southpaws, like because we're in open stance and maybe they have really good attacks from open stance. But then if you close the stance on them, they're like, "What the fuck? You took away like a big one is like when you're orthodox southpaw, is that open stance body kick. Like a lot of southpaws like using their left leg against the orthodox fighter because it's open stance, it's to the body. It's a pretty powerful weapon, but you can take that away by changing your stance. So I've noticed that with a few guys that are southpaw. When I switch on them, they're like, "Fuck, my usual tools I use on orthodox fighter doesn't work on you." Like now we're close stance. It's like I'm not used to this. That's why southpaw is like a southpaw versus southpaw fight is kind of awkward, even though it's like a close stance fight. It's awkward because they're not used to fighting other southpaws. So I would say though, most guys that switch stances like comfortably and like within a fight, unless they're like hurt, usually are good enough to where it's not awkward.
Yeah, man. That's if like I just got back into striking again after taking some time off, and I there's a southpaw in the gym, and I'm just like, man, I don't know. Like only thing that I know because I'm stupid is that I should just keep my foot on the outside so I could sneak in
Yeah,
some punches. But that's basically it. Like I'm not advanced
yeah,
like
it's that's like
street fighter.
standard 101
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. That's
Not bad.
just
Yeah, not bad. Sometimes I'll step on their foot. Sometimes I'll even be inside, like, but you're slipping to the danger zone in a sense. Um, but yeah, that's pretty good. 101, and like also you're gonna use your power hand more, like because it's gonna put your head in a safe position. So if like you're southpaw, or if I'm southpaw and you're orthodox, I'm gonna want to use my lead hand, or my backhand to get my head off line. Because if I use my jab, I'm actually leaning my head towards your power hand. So I just like to use my rear hand a lot more whenever it's open stance and my rear leg. So yeah.
Bellator 290, man. Your first title defense, Anatoly Tokov. When you compare him to like all the other contenders in the division, what makes him the best challenger?
Hasn't lost in Bellator. Um, Gone unbeaten for a number of years. Had strong performances. Um, Big strong Russian dude, man. And it helps that Fedor's on the card too. So it's just like it's going to be a banger. It's going to be USA versus Russia, and yeah, he's just like the best guy to fight for the belt because all the other contenders either have a loss or maybe are 1-1. He's the only guy that really makes sense at this time.
This is the first Russian you're fighting.
Yeah, yeah, this is the first Russian I'm fighting. This is true. I train with
Yeah,
him a lot at
yeah.
ATT.
Oh, so
Yeah,
many, right?
there's a bunch of them
They're everywhere. They're
all over
everywhere.
the
You go
place.
any, all over
Yeah,
the place.
I go
Um,
to Vegas. They're in Vegas. I'm like, you can't get away from the Russians. They're
yeah,
in California. They're all over the place. Probably
so
in
many fighters.
Thailand. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
tremendous, dude. Tremendous amount of Russians. When you go back and study an opponent, right? Do you watch just like the most recent fights, or do you go way back and watch fights when they're like younger and maybe even all the losses that they've had?
Um, Not necessarily. I'll like look obviously at the recent fights, and then like I'll go back maybe a couple years. If there's like a loss on the record, maybe see the guy that they lost to. Um, I don't spend too much time on it. I'll watch a few fights, and then my coaches will watch a bunch of fights, and we'll kind of get a game plan together that we're gonna use. And then outside of that, I'm more focused on getting myself better.
Who are you game planning with? Which coaches?
King Mo, Mike Brown, Tiago Alves. We're all kind of they all have their little input of what I should do. Like, hey, I think this would work on them. Hey, I think we should approach it this way. Um, they're all kind of similar in a sense, but they all have their little nuanced versions, and it's nice. I like having options when it comes to game plans because you can't just go in with one game plan expecting to pull it off because you need like a game plan with layers, and I feel like I have that just in case like one thing doesn't work. It's not like, oh fuck, we're screwed. It's like if one thing doesn't work, we can go to the next like little mini game plan to the major game plan. And then like sometimes you just gotta fight though too. Like sometimes you're just like game plan out the window, we're just gonna scrap for a second. There'll be times like that too. But yeah, just all my coaches are gonna be in my corner. Kind of gave their 2 cents, and we've been working on it all camp, and I've just been getting better as a fighter in general. Just when we throw down and there's no game and there's a game plan out the window for a little bit, I'll be ready for that too.
I think that's what makes good fighters great is where they can switch the game plan and also when they know when it's just time to fight and
Yeah,
just throw hands and kicks and
'cause
just go all out.
sometimes like, what if you get hurt? You can't fucking stick to a game plan when you're fucking hurt. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta fight back. Or let's say let's say the game plan you thought was gonna work is not working. Okay, well now you just gotta fight, dude. Like it's just being able to do all of it is very important, I think.
Does the undefeated record ever creep into your mind at all?
No, I don't really think about it, to be honest now. Um, White belt mentality, 0-0 every day. It's kind of how I take it. It doesn't really matter. It's just a number.
Who's the training partners for you right now for this camp?
So I've been training a lot with Yaroslav Amosov, um, Dovelit. He's a 205er for Bellator. Um, Trained a bit with this other guy. I'm blinking here. Um, Alessio Sakara, got a few rounds with him. George Masvidal. Um, Early on, Ramazan, he signed with Bellator at 170. He's a Russian guy. I trained with him a bit. And there's just a bunch of guys at the gym that I'll get rounds here and there with, and that I helped for their camps like a few months ago. Like I actually helped Nemkov out for his camp when he fought Corey Anderson, and then I helped Dalton Ross to get ready for his fight. I helped Roman a bit. Um, Sabah helped a bit for this camp, but we kind of like went our separate ways because we needed like specific looks. Just training with everybody, man.
Yeah, that's interesting that you're training with like so many different body types and weight classes all the time. You know, what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some people are just like zoned in on like two particular guys, and that's how they rotate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get better at the end of the day. I can't fixate on an opponent, and regardless of the opponent, I'm just trying to upgrade my level of fighting, regardless of who it is. So it's like on any given day, sparring, I can get pretty much any type of body type, any type of fighting style, and it's like, all right, Johnny, how do we beat this? Like, just like I said, no game plan. Like, okay, well, we got this type of fighter. How do I fight? How do I spar with this person and win the rounds? And not necessarily. Sometimes I don't have to win the round. Sometimes I actually handicap myself and like, all right, Johnny, we're just going to work on defense today, or we're going to work on using the jab. We're going to work on taking this dude down and utilizing our wrestling more. Or um, maybe I just learned this new combo. I'm going to try to pull it off in sparring. A bunch of different ways to approach it. But yeah, I don't necessarily zone in too much on like a particular getting ready for a particular fighter. I just like getting better at fighting in general.
Do you feel like that kind of pigeonholes fighters if they just like fixate on like a particular body type or skill set?
Uh, that's the beauty of fighting though, because like you have so much time to get ready for a specific fight. I could see how it could be a good thing, but I could also see how it could be a bad thing because like someone gets hurt, they fill in a fight. You need the money, you need to fight, but it's a completely different type of fight. It's like, oh shit, what do I do? Do I take this fight or do like for me? I'd be like, yeah, I'll just take the fight. I know how to fight any type of fight style or any type of body type, whatever. I'll change it on a dime. Doesn't really matter. But most fights go through. Like most fights usually play out, and I mean, it could be a good thing, to where you're like, okay, you really zone in on how to fight this particular fighter. Um, raises your chances of winning. I see it. I can see how it works. Makes sense.
But then you've seen like certain big fights come together, and then that opponent comes out with a different stance. Like you
Yeah.
see certain guys come out and
Yeah.
they're like karate stance.
Yeah. Maybe they came out with a game plan, like saw a fight that you had trouble with a certain style, and they started implementing that style because they're just capable of doing it. Maybe that whole camp they're working on being like mid to long range, and maybe you have problem with mid to long range strikers, and maybe that's what they worked on all camp, and they're like athletically gifted, so they can do it. Um, yeah, you're gonna have to be able to learn how to adapt to deal with it, even though that might not be their particular style that they've showed in the past. Maybe they changed something up. Like for me, I changed stances with gay guard and went southpaw. Like I can't like. There's a bunch of other people that can do that too. You know what I mean? It's not just me. You just have to be willing to be uncomfortable for a little while and learn something new. And I'm always like open to do that.
Yeah, I think that's what allowed you to excel so quickly with so little fights. You know what I mean? Like it's very rare to be a champion with the the
Less
experience
rare.
that you have.
It's less rare because of Jamal Hill.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Jamal Hill.
that
Sucker
was a
punch.
dude. Yeah,
Another
that
one.
was a crazy fight though. I'm a fan of both of them,
Hmm.
Glover and Jamal. Obviously, I'm a bit closer with Glover, but I kind of knew like this is either one of the last fights or the last fight Glover was going to have. And I don't know, man. I was just on my feet the whole time. Jamal was getting the better of him pretty much most of the fight, but there would be little moments where Glover would come through, and I'm like, oh shit, is going to be like the other fights where he fucking hurts the guy and finishes him out of nowhere. Like, oh, I was on the edge of my seat, dude. It was crazy.
Is that the type of fight you want to have in your first title defense? Probably not, right? You want to
I
just
mean,
go in there. What do you want to do?
I just want to dismantle this guy. If it goes like that, I mean, it goes like that. But I plan on being skilled enough to where it doesn't have to come to that. Um, the point is to not get touched, to touch them up and not get touched. Actually, Jamal did a good job of not getting hurt too much by Glover. A lot of it was like grappling, and there was a couple 2 3s that Glover landed that kind of like whoa stunned him. But outside of that, I mean, Jamal just got like a little black eye or something and nothing else. So I mean, that fight was great for Jamal, not great for Glover. Glover was all beat up, man. So as long as I'm not on the receiving end of all that, I'm okay with it. If I am, I need to either get better or maybe it's the end of my career or something like that. I think that's why Glover hung it up because he's just been in so many wars, and you only have so many wars in you, man. He's too, like he said, he's too tough for his own good, and I'm similar. So yeah, I mean, if it came to that, I'm ready for it, but I'm not looking to do it. But I mean, I'm ready to do it. Whatever.
And it
Yeah,
goes back to the switching stances. Jamal Hill switched stance, hit that left high
left
kick,
high kick.
head
Yep.
kick. Oh, that was just beautiful, man. And he did it like 3 times in a row,
Yeah.
which was
We
insane.
realized he was like hurting him with it because it's just like unexpected. And I watched like a video of it like going slow mo, and you could tell Glover like isn't sure what it's gonna be, if it's gonna be a body kick or a head kick. So he was kind of like leaning down, and his guide hand was going too soon. So it was just he was literally blocking head kicks with one hand, and that doesn't fare well, you know. A giant leg versus one hand, that shit's gonna go right through.
February 4th, Bellator 290, Inglewood, California. Go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app. Johnny Eblen, Diamond Hands, the human cheat code. We don't know. There'll probably be a new nickname next fight. But anyways, it's Johnny. Thank you so much, man, for the time.